On Instagram.
On Instagram. Excellent. All right, so today what we're gonna do is why don't we do a little wraparound first on, for the
lead-in for this?
Yeah, the lead-in for the Probert movie.
Perfect.
Can you just clarify for me the exact name of the guy that we're interviewing, because it's like different everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I know
we were needing to ask him.
Yeah, I want it to be perfect though. Do we have that or no? Do you want me to look it up?
Can you say it both ways?
Why don't you text him and ask him, is it a soft G or a hard G?
Yeah, is it Geordie like as in Jordy,
Right.
or is it
Like
Geordie,
like
as in Geordie
Greg,
Howe?
or is it Greg, yeah, exactly.
Hang on.
And it.
There's a way we can figure this out.
Alexa.
Official trailer, hang on. Probert, by the way, is a great topic. I was a huge fan of watching him play. Let's see.
I actually do want to ask him this if Eisen was asked to come on the documentary, but didn't want to.
Oh, really? He didn't want
He
to?
was, well, I don't know if he was, I was wanting to find out, because he wasn't interviewed live for it.
Love these fights.
I know.
They're like amazing. You know, Bob Probert probably was one of the best fighters of all time in the NHL. Would you say?
I say so.
He's probably the best. If not. Oh wait, my daughter's calling me. Hang on a second. Sorry, we'll get going in a second. Okay. Kate, what's up? Yes? Where the nanny is? I don't know where the nanny is. I'm sitting in my office. We're on the podcast right now. No, that's okay. You're on it too. So you don't know where she is? All right, well, we'll try to track her down. Where are you?
What?
Oh, you're John? All right, well, let me know if you want. I can get Todd to pick you up, but I'll text Mom.
I didn't listen to
Oh,
the actual
yeah,
thing.
but you-
I just
they don't
listened
have
until
to.
they got to his name and then.
She was
All right,
gone
I'll
for
text
90
you.
seconds. What do you think she heard?
Oh, no, it's Geordie. It's Geordie.
Okay.
Every day of his life. Geordie. Geordie.
Geordie.
Geordie.
Sorry, I got a little.
That makes most sense. Geordie.
Geordie.
Yeah.
Unique, bro. It's trying to be unique.
Is he
Unique
ready
New
for us
York.
or no?
No. Do you want to try calling him? Just
5:52.
yeah.
Yeah, why not?
Geordie.
Geordie.
Oh, we're gonna be
Geordie.
All right, so let's get him on here then, right? What's his Skype?
He is.
Here, I'll do it. Let me just send this to Kate really quickly.
What's this?
How was Hawaii, Jason?
Invite. What is
Had a
this?
great time. I'll talk a little bit about it. So I have a little, thing I want to talk about.
Damn. No sneak
I
peek
think
for
you guys
the.
will appreciate
rant?
it.
I'll wait
A
for the
rant?
rant.
Not really a rant as much, but just you'll appreciate when I discuss it, what I'm gonna discuss.
Does it involve Disneyland?
No, it has to do with my germ phobia.
Oh.
Pools.
You'll appreciate
Pools
it.
with kids.
That's part of it.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I love the rain.
So
I
it
wish it rained like
involves-
this all the time.
I love the rain too.
Yeah, it's
Same.
great.
I'm
Can't
over
wait
it.
to go to the mountains and snowboard.
I am.
All right,
over
so we don't
it.
need
You're
these.
such a
anymore.
Southern California girl.
I haven't been snowboarding.
Are we calling it?
Years.
Or we just calling straight out? So we
Yeah, let's
want to
call.
stop that then, right?
Straight up.
And then we'll do this.
Yeah.
He
Good?
picks up early. He didn't respond to my "we're ready now if you are," but he did say, "Yep, sounds good" for 6 p.m. So maybe he's seems like a responsible
We'll
guy.
get it with. We'll wait 2 minutes and then we'll call.
Are we live?
No.
We're live there?
Mhm.
All right, so let's talk a little bit then.
Okay.
All right, so I'll just pump that on there. And we'll call him in a few.
Cool.
Are we on?
Hello, hello.
Cool. Welcome to the Dr. Hockey Podcast. I am here today with one of the top rated Wings fans of all time, Jason Berkeley. How are you, Jason?
Thank you, Jay. I think there's probably other fans that are more knowledgeable and bigger fans than me, but I appreciate that.
No, they lost, actually. You
Oh,
were the
okay.
most, you were one of the top rated fans
I
of
may
all
be the
time.
tallest one, or the tallest one.
You may be one of the tallest ones.
Yes.
That's true.
I'll take that.
Unless like Shaq is a Wings fan, but I don't think he is.
Which, the only thing I have to say though is that the only good thing about the Wings not being really good right now is that it's probably allowing me to live longer. That the way I get wrapped up in the games,
It's true.
when the playoffs and it really is on the line. Although you did not respond to my text the other day.
Well,
I texted you a picture of the scoreboard for when the Wings beat the Ducks in Game 7 in 2013 playoffs. When I was there, we won 3-2, and you didn't respond to it.
I don't think I got that text.
You
Otherwise,
always
I
claim you-
definitely would have. I would have responded to that.
No, you always claim you never get my text messages.
Well, I'm serious. I don't think I got that text.
Okay,
message.
well, it was sent, and it was sent.
Let's see. Just you know, it's not like it's hard to figure out. We have it right here, or we don't have it right here. Either way,
Either way,
today we have a big day because
Yes.
we are going to be on the phone very shortly
yes,
with the director of the Bob Probert film.
I can't wait. It was a great, great documentary.
Geordie Day
Yeah,
directed this film. He's getting a lot of clout for having done a movie about Bob Probert,
a lot of accolades,
which is
absolutely.
awesome.
Yes.
You and I both agree, we think Bob Probert may have been the best enforcer in the history of the NHL.
Oh, I think he was the best one. There's no questions. And I'm not just saying that because he was a Wing, after he was a Blackhawk for a while, but there's no question, I think that he was, and hearing the guys in the documentary, and we'll get into it more as we get Geordie on here, but hearing his contemporaries talk about him was just really an eye-opener too, how they viewed him.
Well, and then, on top of that, everybody says he's like the nicest guy on earth.
He is, and I'll tell a little quick story about when I met him too, and I felt the same way.
When did you meet him?
This must have been in 1994, I think, or so, 94, 95 maybe, and it was a golf outing.
At about the time of the dawn of the internet.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
I just wanna bring that home for our millennials in the room, that, this is before, you know.
Right now,
We're
my
still
mind is
diapers.
also focused on the fact that the people in LA cannot drive when there's a bit of moisture on the road. I did call it moisture, it's just water, and they freak out. They have no idea what they're doing, they lose their minds, it's like, complete chaos out there. But I was recently in Hawaii, as you know,
Yes.
and just got back last week. It was a fantastic time. I went with the family. I went to the Disney Resort on Oahu, and it was great. Had a really fun time with the kids.
You were at the, what's the name of it?
Alani.
The Alani.
Yes.
Did you love it? It's pretty packed.
I loved it. Now, but you have to understand something. I'm a germphobe. So
Oh, Disney's
there
not the place for
So
germaphobes.
here, there's three things. There are three things that strike fear and terror in my heart more than anything else.
3-year-olds at a buffet.
Well, no, besides that. Buffets are one of them, because I don't want to touch the items. But number one, public bathrooms, anywhere. Second,
Do we
any
even
kind
talk about this
of, any
right
kind of potluck.
Oh.
Okay,
I
potlucks
hate
are the most,
potlucks.
they're
Oh,
disgusting.
no,
Anybody out there who says, oh, I love potlucks,
No.
vile,
No.
vile beyond belief. And the third thing is getting into a pool where other people that are strangers in there. I was swimming nonstop for 4 days straight in this brine of water with urine and
man.
other fluids and
Oh
who knows
my
what other
God.
bots
This is
and whatever
awful.
else. And it just, my daughter kept saying, Daddy, come in the pool, come in the pool. I don't want to get in the pool. I did it for her.
You just didn't want disease, that's all. It wasn't that you didn't want to be in the pool with your dog.
No, and actually in the ocean, they said that there was a high bacterial level in the ocean. I would have rather taken my chances in the ocean than in the pool.
Yeah, because the pool's a guarantee.
At least the pool,
It's a guarantee of disaster.
yeah, the ocean's nature
Yeah, it regulates itself.
regulates itself.
Yeah, but the pool is,
But the first thing I
Unregulated.
told my 6-year-old, I said, Ellie, what's the first thing we do when we go into a public bathroom? And she says, Daddy, don't touch anything. I said, perfect.
do not touch.
Do not touch a thing.
Oh,
Yes.
that is rough. Are you okay? Did you need Valium? Xanax?
The therapy will work itself out. I'll be all right.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's a rough one for a German.
Yeah, but the potluck may be number one actually on my list.
Well,
Yeah, anyway.
we're good. We're glad to have you back.
Thank you.
Look like you're disease free. Have you had a battery of tests or immunizations since you've been back?
No, I haven't, but I think I'll be okay. The malaria will just work its way out, and
That's right.
all the Giardia and everything else will just.
Drink plenty of quinine. Get
Yeah.
your tonic water.
Rotavirus.
Whatever you got to do.
By the way, quick medical thing. I used to remember rotavirus, what it was for? Rhoda, right out the anus. Remember that?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
The
well.
mnemonics
I think
we
I
used
just
to-
knew it from personal experience.
Well, that's
maybe.
true, but medicine's all about mnemonics, folks.
Well,
Little known fact.
yeah. I mean, and you also have to know it's clinically relevant. That to me is. You know,
Oh, there were plenty of times when I was on a test and I said, I remember the mnemonic. I couldn't remember what they stood for, but I remember the mnemonic. But
that's not very helpful. Can you just write down the
No.
the mnemonic?
no, and most of them were very twisted and perverted, so.
Point and shoot was my favorite. That was really straightforward for the autonomic nervous system.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes, or the. That's a different story.
Sean is indicating that he
Yeah.
has no idea what we're talking
No,
about.
it's okay. It's
Well,
okay.
in the autonomic, you know what? I'm gonna skip because I
Yes.
think it's just going in the wrong direction.
Totally wrong direction.
For those
This is
of
the
you,
Doctor Hockey podcast, not the Doctor podcast.
No, that's right. The Doctor podcast is totally different.
Totally different.
The Doctor podcast would have to be NC-17.
Yes.
It would. It would just have. I mean, you can't have it any other way in medicine. It's like
no.
it's awful the things that we have to see.
Yes.
There's not enough therapy
The stories
to fix the issues
between the
that
two of
happen
us,
on the trauma
yes,
surface.
between the two of us, the stories we have,
Oh,
yeah, we could be here all day with a gross out factor with
Well,
each other. But
I
it's
think
part of
that-
our business, it's part of what we do, and you gotta take the good with the bad, you enjoy it, even though it's rough on you, and you move forward. Right?
yeah. I mean, I'm quick story about that too, because I remember, like, we knew there was a guy coming in from the freeway whose leg was off.
Yeah.
Like they said the leg is coming in a different bag, and we're bringing the guy in to fix him up.
Right.
And so everyone in the trauma bay is like, whatever you do, don't focus on the leg. You know, and so we videotape all of our traumas. Like when they
Right.
come into the trauma bay, we videotape the whole thing. And so this guy, Tony Udekwu, who's like this like 6'3" Nigerian guy, he said, I don't want to see you looking at the bleeping leg. The leg is gone, so don't worry about the leg. We'll complete the amputation some other day. Save the guy's life. A truck fell on him. His leg's off. Fix it. Don't focus on the leg. Sure enough, as we're looking at the Trauma Bay videos at M&M conference the next week, what do you think you see on the videotape?
The leg.
6 people sitting around the fact that there's no leg. There's like 6 people, and there's like nobody at the head, nobody. I mean, it was just
Wow.
because nobody could get over the fact that the leg had been, sheared off in
It's
this
rough.
accident.
Yeah, it's rough.
But it's like you see this stuff, and you're just like, we just said don't
Yeah.
focus on the fact that he's had a traumatic amputation. Save the guy's life, but that's the way it works.
Did he live?
He did live actually. So Lauren wanted to know if he did live. He did live. He survived. Coal truck fell on him. He had his completion amputation, and ultimately we did get up there and take care of the other parts. But when he first came in, everybody went right to the like looking over like, oh my God, his leg's gone. But that's what you'd expect.
Yeah.
Which is important. A trauma bay discussion is appropriate before we talk to the director of the Bob Probert movie.
Yes, it is, 'cause I'm sure a lot of Bob's victims were in that trauma bed.
I am sure of that.
Yeah, for
I mean,
sure.
this guy could really brawl. For those of you who don't know who Bob Probert is,
Oh,
you
come
need to
on,
see
who
this
doesn't know who
film.
Bob Probert
There's
is?
a lot of people who don't know who Bob Probert is.
I don't wanna know them. I don't wanna be in a world where the people don't know who Bob Probert is.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's happening, man. So let's get
Anybody
a
who
call.
admits that to me, they're gonna have a,
All right, we are going to get
Your
Geordie
choice
Day on the
words
phone.
are
We're going
dirty
to hear
work.
how he made this film, and we'll get his commentary.
sounds good?
All right. Let's saucer one over that way then. Let's saucer one to Geordie Day. All right,
Keep your
we'll
mics,
go
gentlemen.
off
Keep your
there.
mics. Keep your mics.
Keep your mics?
Yeah, because I like this. But it sounds better when
Really?
he's just on.
Hey Jason, I don't know who Bob
He's
Plummer
just
was.
on. What do you call it?
You're
And you
right.
guys are on
I swear to
your
God.
mics.
You're gonna get a couple choice
Oh,
words
so
in the
you'll
turn, like I
record
said.
us there.
I'm gonna record y'all here,
And then
I'll
he'll
just pull
get
his
a
track.
Skype. Okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. We'll have the other this track also then too.
Yeah, just kind of as backup. But this sounds better.
Good. Let's do it.
There we go.
And then you guys can hear that there.
Hey guys,
Hey,
Hey,
how are you
Jordy.
doing?
good. How are you?
We're doing great. You're on with Jason Berkeley, who's our resident Red Wings fan.
How you doing?
Hey, how's it going? Good.
And then you've got Jay Calvert. I'm the main host of the Dr. Hockey podcast. We're happy to have you on.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we want to hear all about how this project happened. It's pretty incredible.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Yeah. So, well, basically, I got involved because my mom had written the autobiography with Bob. So she writes hockey player books. That's her job. She wrote a book with Aaron Fleury. She wrote a book with Wayne Gretzky, and she'd written a
Mhm.
it all just came together. So you guys have seen the doc, and you kind of
Yes.
see how Bob narrates his own story throughout the documentary. So that was sort of the initial idea, and the idea that got.
Oh, I grew up in Detroit, and I remember vividly all of this happening as it was unfolding in live and actually in sequence. And so seeing it in your documentary brought back all those feelings of frustration and just the utter, like, oh my God, again, come on, man, get it together. It was that same frustrated feeling that came through, but it was so good because it felt like I was reliving all that again.
Oh, thanks so much. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's a pretty remarkable story, and to kind of look back and think that at the time the league just hadn't seen anything like that. They hadn't seen a player that was involved in so many scandals, and maybe haven't since really.
No,
Right.
that's absolutely true.
Especially at that time, people sure were shocked, and yeah, it's something for sure. I mean, even in the documentary, we tackle so many of those scandals and a lot of those struggles, but we couldn't fit all of them in the feature. It was just he was getting a lot of attention back then.
Well, I mean, this was an impact player on the ice, off the ice. I think in a way you're correct in that nobody had been this publicly examined for some, I guess, not the best reasons. And but he was on the ice. He was just he was a wrecking ball. So he kind of got it from both sides. And Bob Probert is definitely a feature of the NHL that isn't going to be forgotten anytime soon. Especially now you've memorialized it in an amazing film.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think that was sort of the idea too, as was the book. He was aware that he sort of had this notorious reputation, probably known as the greatest hockey fighter of all time.
Yep.
And probably the most feared player ever. And then in correlation with that, to have to be known for all these scandals and for his drinking and drug use. He knew about his reputation, but he wanted the opportunity to contextualize it and to sort of explain his side of things. And so the goal was to tackle those subjects and not to shy away from them, but also to humanize them. And I think at the end of the day, when people watch the doc, they see that this was a human being and somebody that was struggling and overcoming things, and it wasn't just some lunatic.
Yeah, no, I felt that humanity come through, and it wasn't just from regarding Bob necessarily as well, but some of the other guys. As a matter of fact, I mean, growing up, I despised Ty Domi. I mean, I really just despised the guy. And
Oh man.
the one thing about this documentary that I'll take away from this is that one scene that when he was confessing and he was talking and kind of really getting, you didn't see that tough guy of Ty Domi anymore. He broke down, and I felt bad for him for the first time ever. And that human side of it, that you lose that perspective when someone's such an athlete and a notorious guy such as a Probert or a Domi, you forget that human aspect of it. And that was what's such a beautiful aspect of this documentary, is it showed that so clearly with some of these guys. It was amazing.
Thanks so much. I appreciate that. Yeah, it's interesting. When you're filling that role, I mean, you don't really see that position doesn't really exist anymore. I mean, it's not how it did then, right?
Right.
And you used to see these guys talk them because they didn't want to show any weakness. They wanted to be feared, and their job sort of relied on that. So, now that these guys are a little bit older and are removed from the game and can open up, I agree. I think it's really interesting to hear their perspective and to hear that vulnerability, and they're really smart guys. They're really smart about the game and the consequences of the game.
Hey Geordie, how did you get? Tell us how this film kind of developed, because you directed the film, correct?
Yeah.
But did you have other people that came to you with this project, or is it something that you drove? Tell us like how this really came to be, because it's such an awesome, collaboration, and it just came out so great. What was the story behind the way that this happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's always kind of a bit of a long story, you know. So I'm trying to think of like how to kind of sum it up. Because dogs oftentimes take a little while to sell, and this has been a project that I've been interested in doing for a long time. So as I mentioned, my mom had written the book with him, so so I knew that there was access to those tapes. Once we had okay, so basically in short, I directed co-directed a documentary back in 2015 on Clint Malarchuk, who was famous for getting his jugular vein cut. Yeah,
Seen that video.
and so that broadcaster, based on that documentary, was interested in us doing another hockey documentary, another sports documentary, and I known about these tapes, and I known about Bob's story, and it's a project that I had been interested in for a long time. And so once we got that off the ground with the broadcaster, that came together, and then you know, we had I mean, Danny was so phenomenal in terms of helping us get interviews and in terms of opening up and just being game for anything. She was incredible. And then we got Adam Geordie involved, who had produced Ice Guardians, and he's produced
Oh yeah, love that.
since, and he's a superstar producer. So we just you know, we assembled a team and we got going. We did this pretty quick. I mean, the doc sold in the spring of 2018. So
Wow.
yeah, and we had it finished in the fall. So we moved quick on this one.
That's fantastic. I mean, what a great, I mean, it seems like it was a natural fit, especially the people that you're talking about are definitely in the NHL film world, and you know, those of us NHL film fans want more of these films to come out. I mean, this is a great one, and Bob Probert, I mean, what a force in the NHL. What did you learn during this process that you didn't expect to find out about the Bob Probert story? What was the most shocking fact?
I think I was blown away. I mean, I don't want to really say surprised by, but blown away with was, you know, I have a little bit of experience making documentaries about addiction and addicts, and I have a lot of sympathy for that. But usually there's a you know sort of there's a history there, and some people are hurt along that history, and so not everybody has a positive experience with that person that you're doing the documentary on. And I guess what I was really blown away with is I knew Bob was sort of a fan favorite, but just how loved he was, you know, like players and friends and people just didn't really have all that many bad things to say about him. Sort of considering how fast he lived his life, you know.
Yeah.
I was expecting there to be maybe some more, at least some people to be kind of hurt and still angry about some of it, maybe a little bit bitter. But I think, you know, he had a way of keeping the people he was close with away from that, and he still managed to be a really great dad. And I was blown away with how smart and incredible his kids are, and his wife and family, and not that I didn't think that they'd be great, but they're a pretty special family.
My friend and I had a discussion earlier, and we've been talking about this for a while, even years back in the day when this all was happening, about whether or not Bob Probert could have been one of the great players. And his argument, my friend's argument was, he needed the booze and the drugs to be at that level. My argument was, if he applied himself, I don't think he ever had the self-confidence. Even in the documentary, he even said in the tapes that his friends and juniors were better than him, better shooters, better skaters. But this guy was an all-star. I mean, he really could play. He had great hands. This was not just some thug on some skates. So I think if he had applied himself, I really think he could have been that great all-around player that was tough, that was able to score, and just, you know, really, you know, by today's standards with the training regimen and everything else. But What are your thoughts on that? What are your thoughts on him, if you think that, you know, if you could maybe do a hypothetical on this, knowing him the way you do now after the documentary?
Yeah, right. I mean, his 87-88 season, he got 62 points.
Yeah,
So he was a serious
That's legit.
right.
29
He was-
goals.
Yeah, he was legit. He was an all-star player. And, you know, some people would argue that he was a great player. I mean, maybe not like a 62-point all-star player throughout his whole career, but
sure.
a lot of people we talked to, like Marty McSorley and Craig Cox, just talk about how valuable he was to the Red Wings. Obviously, like as an offensive force in those earlier years, but just, you know, when you're playing against someone like that, and at that time to be playing against someone that you're that afraid of, the impact is undeniable. And you know,
For sure.
After that season, after getting caught at the border, the Red Wings struggled without him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, as for like whether he would have been better with or without the drugs, or with or without the drinking, yeah, I mean, it's just really hard to say. I don't know.
Yeah.
I tend to think I'd like to say, you know, he would have been better without the drinking and the drugs, and especially long term, right?
Right.
Because he kind of peaked before he was caught at the border.
Right.
So, I mean, he was never quite the same player. At least that's what I was told. Although he went on to have a great career, but never quite the same. So,
That was another thing in the documentary too, and I can't remember who said it right now, but they said before he got clean, he had the ability to go on the ice and almost look through you, not even humanize you when he was pounding you, but then afterwards he became softer, almost like they felt like there were kind of like kinks in his armor, and he became more human. I can't, maybe it was Chelios, I can't remember who said it in the documentary, and maybe that's more evidence that he needed those substances. It's a Freudian slip. Maybe he needed those substances to maintain that level. I don't know. That was something I thought was very poignant in the documentary.
well, I asked virtually everyone that question, and you know, it was so that's I had the same thought as you. I think it's a good question. It's really difficult to answer, but at the same time, you know, it's a position you can't do forever. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, he operated as the
That's right.
heavyweight enforcer of the league for a long time. I mean, he was in the NHL from '85 to 2002, and you know, you're fighting every game. That's, you know, there's like 80 games in a season. It's a lot of bare knuckle boxing, and I think at a certain point, no man can keep it up, can fight that much. And at a certain point, I think all fighters kind of get over that.
Right.
They just don't want to. They just don't want to do it anymore. It's too hard on your body.
Well, Geordie, we had, you know, and again, I just want to repeat what I'm with Geordie Day, the director of the Bob Probert documentary. We had Marty McSorley on the Dr. Hockey podcast. Jason, of course, asked him to pull his jersey over his head and punch him in the face.
Well,
But
it would have been an honor. It would have been an honor
and
to
he
do that.
felt like that. A lot of people asked him to do that. I don't know that people would ask Bob Probert to do that, because I think Bob Probert would have a substantial chance of like killing somebody by doing that. He was so tough and such a you know a meat grinder of a fighter that I agree with you. Like that has a definite expiration date on it as a role in the NHL. And today we don't even see guys like this anymore. There isn't somebody that you're going to point the finger at as like, oh, you know, I can't wait to see so and so because you know he's going to knock somebody out. That role is essentially gone.
It's gone, yeah, it's gone that way. Like, if you're going to a hockey, nobody's going to a hockey game to see someone fight. There's not this. If you went to a Detroit Red Wings game, Probert was gonna fight.
Yeah.
Fought every game. I mean, there's no one like that now. So you're right. But yeah, that's awesome. We had Marty McSorley on. He's a really smart guy.
Oh, he was great, and he was, you know, he definitely was of the similar ilk, but where he was a great player, but definitely was seen as an enforcer. What do you think happened to that role in hockey today? Like, why did it really evaporate?
Well, they changed the rule. faster. You can't. I mean, Froberg could play, but a lot of those guys that were fighters on teams were just there to fight. You can't really have guys in your team like that anymore. It just doesn't really make sense. And
You think that the head injury issue has been a big role as well, and the concussion issue?
Well, no, I don't think, because I don't think there's less concussions in the game, actually. You know, I don't think that the consensus is out on that. Most of the concussions are from hits, right?
Right.
And the game's faster than ever. The hits are as brutal as ever, just because they're so high impact at that speed. So yeah, I don't think that the league made a conscious decision to try and. I mean, maybe they did. Maybe that's why they changed the rules, right? But nobody's ever actually said you can't fight, but they still allow fighting. So.
Well, it's almost as if the NHL traded the fighter and the enforcer for these bad open ice hits. Mickey Redmond, with a few guys on the Red Wing broadcast a few weeks ago, made the point that when guys like Probert and Koser and those guys were on the ice, people didn't take cheap shots anymore because they knew they'd have to answer the bell. Nowadays, there's no one to answer the bell, so these cheap shots are more frequent. So it's like they traded one for the other. That's my impression of why the game's changed now in that sense.
Yeah, no, I see. Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah, no, I think that's a valid point. I don't know, you know, it's hard to say, and going into the doc, I didn't have any agenda, you know, like I wasn't trying to argue for or against fighting, or for or against, you know, or make any kind of statement, like anything political. I just, you know, was trying to tell Bob's story, and his friends and family talked about concussions, and they talked about how it impacted him. Obviously, in his case, he was knocked out from a bunch of fights, so he included that. But
Yeah.
I don't know whether the league kind of intentionally tried to eliminate fighting, and maybe that's part of the reason that they kind of changed the rules. Well, I think we just trying to speed the game up.
I had an opportunity to meet Bob Probert. I was at before I went to a golf outing. It must have been maybe 1996 or 97 or so, and had breakfast over in West Bloomfield at Sonny's Cafe. I'll never forget. I walked in there. I was the first one for my friends to meet there, and he was sitting at the table by himself.
No way.
And yeah, just reading the paper, drinking a cup of coffee. And I said to myself, I've got to say something to him. So I went over, I talked to him, he asked me to sit down. We talked for about 5-10 minutes. He was literally the nicest person on the planet, and just a very gentle, soft-spoken guy that I knew how he was on the ice, and just to see that other side of him from a personal perspective kind of blew me away. That was one thing that blew me away from him.
Yeah. There's a really, I mean, I saw that too, you know, from all the family home video. You see like how gentle and kind, patient he was with his own kids. And there's this video I found on YouTube where there are these girls from like college, like in some broadcasting program, and they're like first year students. And one of them is interviewing him, and she's asking some pretty personal questions about, you know, his history with addiction and some of those high profile scandals. And she's so nervous she can't even look up at him. She's like looking at a piece of paper, and he's just so patient and so kind of her, and he answers every question honestly, and he never gets offended. And as she's mishandling like the mic and kind of rambling or not getting to her question, he's just so kind to her. And yeah, I mean, just in all the footage that I saw, that definitely comes across.
Where can people see the film now? And again, it's called Tough Guy, the Bob Probert movie, correct? Am I saying the name of the documentary correctly?
The Bob Probert story.
The Bob Probert story. So, and where can you see this film now? I mean, we want to get everybody out to see it because it's awesome.
Thank you so much. Okay, so as of now, we're working on setting up some theatrical screenings in the States, and we're looking to announce where it'll be playing sometime in the spring. So it'll be available soon, but we just haven't announced yet. We don't have anything set in stone yet for the U.S. So we're working at it still, but
that's great. I mean, I think you're going to get a lot of action from the hockey community if they can get at it. So that's always the trick with these documentaries, because like I know one place that you should definitely call up Emirates Airlines and get it put on there, because that's where I watch a lot of my documentaries. I fly to Dubai every once in a while, do some surgery over there, and they have like I saw like the Pearl Jam documentary on that flight one time. It was called 20, and all these the documentaries are really hard to get at unless you really go searching for them. So I don't want this film to just go into sort of the back pages of Netflix or something. People need to see this film. I mean, Bob Probert was an amazing player, and you did a great job with his story. And there are so many hockey fans that are going to really love this film.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
What's next? What are you going to do with now that you have this great piece in your portfolio? Is there another story in the NHL you want to tell?
There's a few logs in the fire, but nothing in production yet, so I can't really announce anything yet. But we're working at it. So yeah, now try to pitch some new projects, and hopefully, based on how this documentary has gone, there'll be some interest there. So yeah, definitely some projects I'm excited about. I just can't really chat about yet.
Well, just from the Dr. Hockey podcast egalitarian fairness clause that I have in the bylaws here, we think a Mario Lemieux documentary would be amazing to go up with this Red Wings documentary.
Yeah.
No, please don't do any Penguin stories. More Red Wings.
No. I mean, of course, there are more Red Wing stories to tell, plenty more. But
Yes.
there's so many incredible stories in the NHL that if you really look at what some of these guys did, it is amazing what like a Mario Lemieux or a Jaromir Jagr have accomplished. Their stories are so interesting, and especially Mario going from an 18-year-old kid who essentially dominated the league for years on end, in and out with injuries, and then coming back to now own the team. It's been there is so much great material, and we're just huge fans, so we love seeing this kind of stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, I absolutely agree. There's no shortage of material, and I think there's definitely a hunger, as it turns out, for these kind of biographical hockey documentaries, and there hasn't been a whole lot of features like this. So I'm hoping to do more.
So and as a hockey fan, who's the team you grew up watching? Who's your favorite?
Well, I grew up in Calgary, so definitely root for the Flames.
Nice.
Also,
You must be lucky this season so far.
Yeah, no kidding, hey? It's awesome.
Yeah, getting James Neal was no small feat. So it's great. The Flames are just on fire, and that Gaudreau he's just amazing.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah, so that's good. So the Flames didn't always have. I mean, Jerome McGinley was there for a long time, and he just never pulled out the cup he was looking for. It was really that must have been somewhat tough to watch as a young fan.
Yeah, when I was growing up, Flames were not good. It was something heartbreak, and for most of my life, they haven't been very good. Obviously, they had that playoff run in '04, and that was really exciting. And then this year's really exciting, but you learn to appreciate seasons like this for sure. So yeah, it's definitely an exciting year.
Do you live in Alberta now?
Yeah, still live in Calgary. Travel quite a bit for work and for the docks, but based here.
Calgary's an amazing city. I was a visiting professor. I was the visiting professor for the Canadian Society of Aesthetic Plastic Surgery. I went and got to operate in Calgary, and I saw the city, and it was really an amazing place. I mean, just a great town, and obviously everybody we talked to, they thought I was Canadian because I knew so much about hockey. And they said, "Oh, did you grow up in BC?" I was like, "No, I'm from New Jersey." And no, you must have grown up in Vancouver. I was like, "No, I'm actually a Jersey guy." But they were really gracious, and the people were amazing. That culture of you know, winter sports and skating is just, it's pervasive. Everywhere we went, it seemed like we were, you know, eating dinner at an ice rink here or there or something when we went out at, you know, special skating clubs and hockey this, and it was, I mean, that is a city that, you know, really loves their hockey. So I hope for you guys that the Flames can do something in the playoffs.
Thanks so much. So did you grow up playing hockey then in New Jersey?
I played very little. You know, it was an ice time issue in New Jersey. There was one rink for, you know, a span of like 50 miles, and it was really hard. So unless you wanted to skate at 4 in the morning, and it just was very difficult to do. But I did play a bit, but it never rooted for me. So I wound up being, you know, breaking my nose playing rugby a lot more through college and med school. But I always loved hockey. I was, you know, 5 years old in Madison Square Garden watching the Rangers just get pounded on a regular basis. So, and I was there actually when the Devils, there were some people in my town who syndicated the New Jersey Devils and started that team. And in fact, Pat Verbeek moved in right next door to my best friend from grade school.
Oh, no way. So your podcast being Dr. Hockey, that's so interesting. Do you guys talk at all sort of about hockey through that lens, like through a medical perspective or from like a scientific perspective, or is it more just like you're just a fan of hockey and you happen to be a doctor?
Well, it's maybe a little bit of both, actually. We actually do try to work in some medical knowledge and some medical facts for our listeners so that they can understand. And you know, I'm a neurologist, but I also mostly focus on pain and spine issues. But you know, we've discussed concussions and the whole CTE issue, and you know, we've discussed what happens when, you know, when people have their quote bell rung. We discuss pertinent issues. We actually had Jason Snibby on, who's a good friend and a colleague, who's an orthopedic specialist, and one of the King's orthopedic specialists, talk about labral tears in the hips. So we try to have as much, pertinent information medically as related to hockey, but not, you know, beating people over the head with it, because I think people would tune out. And no one wants to listen to me for drawing on it either. So that's.
Well, and I'm a plastic surgeon, so I pretty much talk about boobs.
Oh, okay. Well, fair enough.
No, we actually, I love talking about facial trauma. In fact, we did have Mia Khalifa on also, so she's a huge hockey fan, but we really mix it up. I mean, we've had kind of a real mix of, not only just hockey people, but hockey fans. We've had Pat Brisson, who's, the agent for, Crosby and Cam Fowler and Anja Kopitar, and we've had, we've had players on, Seth Jones, Anders Lee. I mean, we've had a real diverse group of people that like to talk to anybody really about hockey, and we're huge fans, but the basis for the podcast really came out of the fact that when the Maloof brothers were trying to put together the Vegas Golden Knights with with Foley, that I kind of gave them some guidance on what would probably work, and I kind of wrote down that, like, this is how I would pitch it to the NHL, and they took some of my notes and they said, you know an awful lot about hockey, you should do something with it. I said, well, in between nose jobs, facelifts, and breast implants, I'm kind of busy, but I started just talking, and then Jason got on here with me. We had Kevin Connolly on. He kind of started out with us, and he's gone into more of a directorial role, so he doesn't come around too much, but Jason and I have been doing it now for about a year and a half straight, and every week we put out either 1 or 2 podcasts. It's really fun.
That's amazing. I mean, on your guys' schedule, that must be pretty tough. My sister's a doctor, and I know that. I know schedules can be pretty nuts, especially for a surgeon. Yeah, plastic surgery. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's busy.
You guys about you're asking me about about Bob and concussions and whatnot, but when I'm kind of interested in your guys' perspective after watching the documentary. If you had any sort of insights in regards to that, or any sort of instincts about how concussions may have impacted him or any of these players.
Well, I never examined him as a patient and knew about his medical history, but aside from the fact of take out all the substance abuse, because we do know that substances such as cocaine cause what's called vasoconstriction. It can cause small microscopic strokes in the brain. Alcohol comes along with brain shrinkage, and some other factors on a long-term basis. But it's just the repetitive blows to the head that take its toll on people in and of itself. And who knows if there was a genetic predisposition for it for him. You know, his dad didn't live very long, so they probably didn't know about that. But, you know, a lot of other factors, as we say, multifactorial in medicine. But again, without getting too much detail, and I've mentioned this before, but basically when you have a concussion, you know, you basically need your brain hemispheres, the two big lobes of your brain, and your brain stem. There's a part of the brain stem called the reticular activating system. It's kind of like the battery of the brain, if you will. You need those two things to remain conscious. And so if you're in a head trauma, for whatever reason, getting a punch to the face, whatever it is, and it disrupts the flow of impulses to either one of those areas, you get knocked out. But it's not always that full loss of consciousness. You can get dazed. What happens is the brain is like a big bowl of Jell-O sitting inside of a jar. And sometimes if the brain is jostled too much, it can swell, and it has nowhere to go but in on itself. Sometimes the different parts of the brain have different densities or thickness. So when someone's being punched, or if they hit the wall at a high velocity, the different sections of the brain don't always travel at the same speeds. So you can get what's called shearing forces, and it can actually shear or tear some of those brain cells. And so if you think about that's going on a repeated basis, you know, 82 game schedule plus playoffs and whatever else they're doing. I mean, Bob himself had over 2,000 penalty minutes, most of them from fighting. That's a lot. And so take out the factors of all the substance abuse alone, that head injury could have played a role with this. You know, I know you mentioned there about him having headaches and about having mood swings and everything else. So it's probably a combination of all of those factors. And, you know, we've seen this in other players like Bogosian and some of these other guys that just, you know, really horribly adversely affected their lives on every level. So,
Daniel Carcillo is like a huge.
yeah.
He's just making a lot of noise about the concussion issue in the NHL, because he feels like it's really affected him, and he's concerned about it. He makes a lot of push for people to be aware, build awareness, and the truth is I think fighting is kind of the least of your worries with concussions. I think the hits are the problem. I think you're on skates, you're sliding around. I mean, you can barely get in a good shot on anybody. The fights last a few seconds, a few punches. But these hits, like you said before, Geordie, that they're coming down at 25 miles per hour and getting blasted into the wall by somebody else going the same speed in a different direction. That's where you're going to have problems.
Right. Yeah. So I know Daniel. Did you guys have him on the podcast?
No, we need to I need to get him on because I really want to chat with him about it. He's really, just seems like he's very tuned in. He's got a lot of knowledge about it, and we definitely address the concussion issue because it's for real. And it seems like the league is concerned about it, with the patient safety committee being a lot more active and handing out suspensions more readily. So. We'll see, but we will definitely get Carcillo on.
I actually sent him a tweet of support once, and from a medical perspective, and he got mad at me and basically got pissed at me, and I just got upset about it and deleted my Twitter. So
That's true.
that was my final straw on Twitter. Yeah, I was really actually sympathetic, and I let him know that I was a doctor and everything else, and he got mad at me. So I wasn't going to get in the middle of the discussion, but that was it for me with Twitter.
I think he said something like, what do you know about concussions?
Yes, he did. No, he did say, what do you know about concussions? I don't believe you're a doctor. And I just said, okay, that's it, I'm kind of done, but.
Well, your
listen,
board certification means nothing.
No, but the thing is that some of these guys end up having a lot of frontal lobe issues, and the frontal lobe of the brain is what basically separates us from the lower primates and allows us to have personality, mood. It kind of has our checks and balance of what's appropriate to do in society. For example, in patients that have Alzheimer's disease, they may not know that if you're at a buffet, it's not appropriate to cut in line in front of somebody. That inhibition is lost. Similar to how when you get drunk, it affects the frontal lobes. And imagine having that type of thing on a daily basis affecting mood and your behavior. it's a rough way to live. So I don't blame him.
No,
I
it
just,
is.
you know,
I mean,
it was my best intention, but I don't blame him. I can understand where he's coming from.
Yeah, it's coming from a pretty personal and emotional place.
Yes.
What about obviously we talked about like the opioid addiction, and that's an epidemic,
Sure.
obviously, and amongst retired athletes. Do you think there's an alternative there? Like, what do you think about like CBD oil or anything else, or like what do you think what do you think can be done about it?
Well, I mean, I am a pain specialist, and you know, opiate medications are a part of my practice. And you know, without again boring everybody, but basically, if you look back at the 80s and 90s, there were a lot of patient advocacy groups that were saying that doctors should just give out pain pills, no matter what, for patients until the patient's pain is completely gone, regardless of what dose you're giving. And that paradigm shifted in about the late 1990s to early 2000s. Where now the pendulum's kind of swung the other way, where it's like saying, basically don't give them out if you can avoid it. So we need to find a happy medium, but you know, there's a lot more guidelines and checks and balances, and doctors are held much more accountable these days, much more so than they were used to. I mean, it's tenfold. We do drug testing on patients, we do online Department of Justice website searches on patients to make sure they're being compliant. So when you talk about an athlete, the problem is, there are some doctors that are easily influenced by celebrities and will give these people anything they want. You know, you look at some of these celebrities that have died from opiate abuse. It's a real shame. But I think that I have no problem with marijuana. Matter of fact, I would probably, endorse people to use that for pain as opposed to pain pills any day. But I can't officially prescribe it because it's still federally illegal, and we get our federal DEA license. I think if it became federally legal, you'd see a lot more doctors being much more open in the open about being able to openly prescribe it and endorse it. But yeah, I agree with you. I think CBD oil with THC or without it, whatever it takes to avoid these opiates, because the long-term ramifications of these are devastating. In fact, one of the things that these guys don't even realize is that taking chronic high-dose pain pills can actually lower their testosterone level. We saw Proby doing steroids as part of the documentary, which I didn't know before, and actually that kind of took me off guard. But
Just in his last season.
oh yeah, no, it was still an issue. But that these pain pills and narcotics will prevent your body from producing testosterone. So that has actually a kind of a opposite effect of what they want. They can't perform at the same level, even though their pain may be better. They still can't perform because their testosterone's in the basement. So it's a whole. The understanding of these medications, the long-term ramifications and everything else is much more prevalent nowadays than it used to be, and it's more in the forefront, which I think is a good thing for everybody involved.
Yeah.
So,
Well, so Geordie, what's the next move then? Is you're gonna fish out the next documentary? Is it gonna be an NHL thing, or is it gonna be something different? What's coming down the pipe for you?
Yeah, so still have to release Tough Guy in the States. So we're looking to do an American Film Festival run, and then we're looking to play it in some theaters in the U.S. and then get it sell it to a broadcaster essentially.
Right.
So that's looking to happen this spring.
Cool.
Meanwhile, yeah, we're in the works of pitching some upcoming projects, and would definitely love to take on another hockey documentary, especially about Pick, as you mentioned, like on somebody with a story as interesting as Bob's. Absolutely love making this documentary, and if there's interest there, I'd absolutely love to do it. And I know there's demand, like I know there's a definite audience for it and a hunger for it, because we just haven't seen that many of these kinds of documentaries within the hockey world.
Well, no, and there definitely is. So, well, we wish you a lot of luck with this film.
absolutely. I'll have you back on at some point down the road too.
Yeah, the movie is Tough Guy, the Bob Probert story. The director Geordie Day. Get out and see it. We'll definitely make sure that we make the big push for you as well, as much as we can. And if you're in town and want to go suffer through a Kings game with us, Jason won't go, but I will.
No, I will. I will go with him. And I'll probably, as I do every game just about, I'll probably wear my Probert jersey, which is here on display. as well as my Bruise Brothers t-shirt that I have, for everyone to see on Instagram Live. And I actually, in my office, I have a lot of Red Wings memorabilia and framed pictures, and I have a picture of Proby connecting with the right hand to Domi's face, and it's also, he signed it on a piece of paper underneath it, and it's framed, and it's real nice up there, so I have it every day in my office, I look at it.
Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you, Jason, Domi's coming in next week to
Okay.
do the Dr. Hockey podcast.
And I'll tell you something else, I will not be here next week.
Yeah, Brian Allen told a great story about how he pissed off Ty Domi and had to like fight him, and he knew like there was 2 games in a row or something. He knew he was gonna get in a fight. And
Well, then he said to me, I said to him, he goes, Ty, I'm sorry if I did anything, I really apologize.
it's a great story.
Yeah.
If you back it up in the Dr. Hockey podcast, it was really funny.
He was very good, but as you know what's crazy, and you guys are probably experiencing this too, is when you actually, I mean, you see it on TV, and obviously there's a massive size difference, and you can see it visually, like when you're watching the game. But when you see these guys in person, some of these fighters, I just met like Sheldon Surrey and you know, Scott Parker's another guy, and some of these guys are just massive.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
Oh yeah.
6'5", 6'5", like 260 pounds, just this massive guy. And you think about being Ty Domi size and fighting someone like that, like you can't even fathom it.
Yeah, he's a tank though, I mean, he's like
He
a
was tough, man.
bulldog, yeah.
I saw him pull a fan over the glass and beat him up in the penalty box. So he didn't take any guff.
No, but it just makes you respect him so much more.
Absolutely.
Like, Van Bush, who we interviewed for the documentary, who's really not a big guy at all, and he's fighting these massive guys. I mean, I was just so blown away by that. Like,
Yeah.
how tough you have to be to do that.
I have a funny story about that. I told one of my friends, I was trying to get him into hockey when we were in Pittsburgh. You know, I did my residency at the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, and I was trying to get my buddy into it. I was like, you gotta come down there. It's Mario Lemieux's playing. It's gonna be amazing. So we go down, we get like seats like on the glass. We're totally fired up. You know, we like got some drug rep to get us these amazing seats as residents. We go down there, first like 2 minutes of the game, Mario comes out, he's skating like crazy. He gets behind the net and gets in a fight and gets like game manager thrown out of the game like right away. Like I think it's the only time I've ever seen Mario Lemieux thrown out of a game, and that was it. He never got to see Mario. I mean, we watched Jogger and everybody else that was there, but it
Well,
was
these
just like,
guys don't want to back down. They
No,
don't. They
I mean-
can't. I mean, even Yzerman has gotten in fights in the past, and you know some of the stars. You know, I don't. Did Gretzky ever get in a fight?
I doubt it.
Did
Like-
have 2 career fights.
He did?
I think technically, if you look it up, I remember hearing that once. I think I've seen them. I don't think they were anything crazy.
We got to find those on YouTube and see if we can check those out. But that would be interesting to see him fighting.
Yeah, most of the fights are easily available. We actually found a fight between 2 of our guests, between Jan Stastny and Brian Allen. That was so we figured we should get them on for a common podcast. It'd be pretty funny.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there's a whole community of people that are. I mean, there's hockey fans, but there's almost like a whole other group of, like a sub group of fans, and like a whole community around hockey fighting.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Geordie, quick question for you. Did Joe Kosar? I don't see if I saw this in the documentary, but Joe Kosar fought Bob Probert at one point. Did Joe Kosar mention anything to you? I'm a huge fan of Joe's as well. Did he discuss that fight with Proby at all?
Yeah. One thing we did that we didn't actually end up putting in the documentary was we put up like a screen like right in front of the camera, so they're looking right into the camera, and we played the fights for the players.
Right.
They kind of commented on the fights that were happening.
Oh, that's awesome.
There was so much material to go over with Bob, like so much that happened in his life, and so many fights, that none of that commentary really ended up in the doc.
Oh, I got to see that. That's great.
To the fight, right? So I'd like to put those out as promo for the doc, and probably will in the spring here. And one of them is Kosar commenting on his fights with Bob.
I mean, that should be like a special features section on the
Oh,
DVD.
that would be
I want
amazing.
that right away.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, listen, good luck with everything with this film and whatever you do next. And we want to, definitely keep in touch. And if you got something coming up, let us know. We'd love to chat with you about it. And we really appreciate you taking the time to come on the Dr. Hockey podcast.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thanks,
All right,
Geordie.
Geordie, take care. Thanks so much.
Guys, thank you.
Bye now.